Nobody's come in here and said anything.
I don't think it would be.
It looks good. I mean, everything's nice and clean. And,
Let's see here.
rolling.
Yep.
Is that notification?
Yeah, you're left.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. This looks like an odd chair. We're live and ready to go whenever you guys are.
Sure. Shall I call the meeting to order then?
Go ahead.
I'll call it to order. Member present, Tim Keeney, Board of Selectmen, Mike Marinaccio, and Brian Winsinger, and Kim LaFleur. Go to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
22 more days.
That's
what?
right, yeah.
Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be nice to see sports on TV again.
It will. All right, moving right along. The item number 4, discussing possible vote on affirming the Board of Finance letter addressing support for the Board of Ed, Summer's students, parents, and educators during the COVID crisis. Mike, I wanted to thank you for sending that letter along to us. I thought it was really well written, and I just felt, Tim, as a board, we should kind of endorse the letter and make sure that the whole community knows that Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance are going to work together to make sure we get the school what it needs, get the residents what they need. So.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes a lot of good points. And I suppose the primary concern of the Board of Finance was sort of having a slush fund with lack of control.
It's been called that.
Lack of control, basically.
Lack of control is probably a better term, and
Yeah.
I think their overriding comment was that the town has placed their faith in us as a financial check, and so we,
Yeah.
the Board of Finance, want to be in that role. So,
Right. Understand.
if you don't mind, I know this has been written like a week ago, but there are some updates that would
Sure, I'd love to
go
hear that.
along to this.
Yeah.
I just want to bring you up to speed as to what's currently happening. When we ask for in that second or first sentence for a comprehensive plan to reopen the school is imperative, that is being worked on by the superintendent and his leadership team.
Very actively.
They are going to be presenting that to the Board of Ed within the next week. They said, unfortunately, we said in our letter, there's little guidance. Well, there is now state guidance that came out late last week, earlier this week. So there is state guidance, and it is quite detailed and stringent.
Complex.
And complex, you're right, Tim. There are a lot of layers to it. So their detailed plan is going to be shared. It's going to be approved by their board, the Board of Education. It does involve funding. Clearly, it will be probably a substantial amount of funding. I'm not really at liberty to say what that number is at this point because I really haven't seen all the figures in there. But the funding required to achieve the plan will be in that plan, and the Board of Ed will vote for that plan with whatever that funding number is. We, the Finance Department, have taken some initiative there as to look into what kind of educational expenses that may be COVID related, or what the interpretation might be with FEMA. So we're looking into that right now. There are certain thresholds, and if you exceed those thresholds per dollar, you could possibly get upfront funding for some things, and then others might be reimbursable. So that's a complex equation also.
Be able to describe what it is and what's
Yes,
possibly reimbursable.
In excruciating detail, you have to describe what it is, and you have to break it down into the categories of payroll, administrative, overhead, equipment, plant, so there's anything you can imagine. From one of the things I've seen, and earlier today the superintendent did come out with a letter to the parents about the fact that he is working on a plan. I don't know if you've been included in that email.
I didn't see
But
it
it does
yet.
break down each, it breaks down a whole bunch of categories. I mean, some of the striking things is I think you really run into a lot of issues, and I'm not going to try to take their explanation of everything away, but what I came away with is that when you get into the primary grade, you get into some real difficulties. Basically, it's a social environment.
Yeah.
Requested, and actually it requested he prioritize what are the steps we need to fast track. I said the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen are interested in fast tracking this and coming up. Are we still under the executive orders of the governor? Are we still in the state of emergency? Do those orders still exist? Have any expired? Will this change our normal path to appropriations regarding town meetings and what kind of notices, et cetera? So he is supposed to get back to us with what is the path to the appropriation, and what's the correct path, obviously, and the legal path. So those are kind of that was all put out there as issues. And I do believe, for the most part, I do believe completely that the Board of Ed is addressing those issues, and then and any other issues worth funding. Sticker shock, it may be sticker shock. We won't know until the meeting comes, and then we'll see where we go from there. But we've pledged and promised. The Board of Finance has their full cooperation, and your vote tonight will also endorse that, and I think it puts everybody on the same team. So.
Sounds very thoughtful approach.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to support and affirm the Board of Finance letter related to support for the Board of Ed and summer students, parents, and educators during the COVID crisis.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next item, resignation of Deputy Citation Hearing Officer. Kim has provided us with a written resignation note from
Wayne
Wakely, resigning his position. I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation with regrets.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. And Kim, is there a process in place for finding a new candidate for the Deputy Citation Hearing Officer position?
Jen is working on contacting a few people, and if you have any recommendations, we can reach out to those people, and then we'll bring it to you, and you'll have to vote on it and appoint the person.
Great.
So that'll happen probably at the next meeting, because we're going to have to schedule something.
Very good.
So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 6, WPCA schedule approval.
Okay.
Kim, can you walk us through this, or Mike?
So, the only additional item on here is, it's state statute, they were required to add it, was salons and cosmetology, I can't even say.
Cosmetology.
Cosmetology.
For their annual health
Yeah.
inspections.
Yeah, so, I guess this happened back in October, and it was part of his, budget, but I didn't see this, I don't remember seeing this, so. But now that all this has come forth with the COVID and people wanting to reopen their salons.
Pretty
this is-
important.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the schedule as presented.
I'll second that.
So I just had a couple questions. The rate
Yeah, so
itself,
do
how consistent is that with neighboring communities?
I don't know. I can ask Steve to come down. He's here if you'd like to talk to him.
Give them a buzz if you want to talk to 'em.
WPCA set this.
Might be helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
I'm wondering how consistent it is with the current
Yeah.
fees. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what kind of research they did to come up with that number. Everything else seems like,
is this all brand new? Is that what this is?
no, this
No,
the
just
schedule's
an
been in
item.
place.
Right.
The schedule's been in place, the salon and cosmetology.
Right, that's the only thing
It's
that's
an
new.
addition, yeah.
And I guess, so the state's requiring that we do inspections, are they requiring that we charge for them at all?
We don't know that. Steve would have to answer that. I apologize.
That's okay. Because I'm sensitive to,
The amount,
no, the economic impact that so
Yeah.
many small businesses have
I agree.
felt.
yeah.
And now we've got, if a barber shop or a hair salon in
Yeah.
town wants to reopen,
And nail salon, I wouldn't say.
nail salon, whatever it is, do we want
That
to,
have been out of business for the last 4 or 5 months.
every
I
dollar's
can't-
precious,
yeah,
right?
sure.
So do we,
Geez, I can't believe we would be
I-
charging them.
do we-
I didn't
but
think
I'm
it
not
would be
the
that high
authority on that.
either.
right, so if we have to
Yeah.
charge, can we make a nominal $5 fee for this year, revisit it next year, but let's let these folks get
It's a
back in
nice
business before we
consideration.
whack them with another 150 unexpected bucks, so.
Yeah.
We don't have to add anybody to our staff to do the inspections in town, right?
No.
There's no real,
No, Steve
there's
does all
some
that.
labor time, but no real
Yeah.
hard cost, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Just Steve going out and inspecting everything.
Tim, are you okay if we table this until Brian
Yeah,
comes back
until
with
he
Steve?
shows
We'll
up,
get-
sure.
Let's
Yeah,
let's
go
go down
ahead.
to item 8, approval of June 18 minutes. That way we can come back to scheduled payments with questions when Brian's in the room.
I reviewed the minutes, and there are a couple of omissions there I need to put in.
Okay.
The first one is halfway down the page. Mr. Blank made a
Oh, I
motion
did it
to
again.
approve.
You know what I do?
Mr.
So when I'm
Blank.
sitting here, I do it. So.
That's what we're supposed to make
Because I'm
up,
not sure
so
who's gonna
try to
say it,
remember.
so
Put it down for
I
a
didn't
second.
have it in my notes.
I can look at the
I forget who
recording.
actually
I'll
said
look
it,
at
yeah.
the recording.
You
I
don't have it in my
apologize.
notes.
Hello. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Bud's not here?
No.
No, he's on vacation. this week.
Okay,
You get
I'll
the
take
big
the chair.
Do you want to finish the approval, and then we'll go back to
Yeah,
item
we-
6?
yeah,
I just
sure.
tabled
Might as
6
well
for a second.
complete
We'll get
this.
to it on our back.
Yeah, I reviewed them. I don't have any recommended changes.
Just that. Okay. I'll
I'll make a
fix
motion that we
I
approve the
apologize.
meetings of, minutes of the June 18th meeting
With the
with the
correct-
addition of filling in
Mr.
the blanks. of
Mr.
the
Blank made a
that
motion.
occurred.
Do that.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seconded by the blank.
Back to number 6. So Steve, on the there's a motion on the table to approve the fee schedule, but we're in discussions. Tim, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so the discussions, first of all, relate to how do these fees relate to current fees? Are they the same?
Everything on that is our existing approved fees. The only thing we changed was adding the salons and cosmetology, because new statutes came out requiring, inspection and permitting of these places, which we've got to start doing.
You've
So-
never done it before?
No. The salons were done, we, only on a complaint basis, we would go into them. But the new statutes, they finally came out with guidelines and inspection forms to actually do the inspections of these places.
Effective immediately?
That actually was effective October last year.
Oh, really?
But we had to put the fee schedule in place, and then this whole COVID thing happened, and so it got put on the back burner. But we had submitted it with our budget proposal. I guess it just got.
You had any feedback from the salons? Or?
No, not directly. I'm sure they're aware of it because this is new, and we've sent them stuff on the COVIDs.
What are other towns doing? You know.
The health district, they charge about double what we do for fees. Not on every category, but generally the water pollution control likes to keep our fees because these are town businesses and we're a town agency. So,
On this particular item, do they charge double also?
I'd have to go
they're
back
really
and look
concerned
at my
about
what they charge, and like Eastern Highlands charge. That's usually what we do, compare our fees to them. The maximum fee in the statute is $250. So we thought $150 is comparable to what we charge other businesses in town, and that's how they arrived at that fee for the salons.
Like what kind of businesses?
The restaurant fees and so forth. You can see
yeah.
based on the class of the restaurant, they range from $150 to $250. Septic fees are $200 for a permit, for testing a new lot, and then for an actual septic permit,
And these are
$200.
These are annual?
Those are the restaurant fees are annual fees. Site development fees are per event for a new house or for testing new subdivisions and things like that.
And do we have any hard costs associated with an inspection for a salon? I mean, there's labor costs, but are there any hard costs where it's, you're buying
the only hard costs I can think of right now is I will probably order inspection forms, the duplicate, forms, because the state provided us with a draft form, but we want one with our letterhead, and, like I said, in duplicate. So when I do the inspection, I can give a copy to the salon, and one goes to the file.
Okay.
So that would be the only hard cost to go to Ellington Printers and say we want to do a new form. And
so Tim, I'd be okay with the fee, but I'd like to suspend it this year, just for the 2020 fiscal year.
Okay.
So we could approve the fee of $150 for future years, but suspend it for the 2020 fiscal year.
2021.
Okay, effectively. Okay, I was looking at 720. Thanks. 2021 fiscal year. Just suspend it for this year because I think there's a hardship for all small business, and it's another new fee that they didn't have last year.
I agree with that.
Are we required to charge anything? I mean, can we do zero for this year? Is that allowed? You said there's a maximum of $250. Is there a
I
statute
think
that says it
they're
has
probably
to be?
better off putting the fee in there and just suspending it this year.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it says the towns can charge up to $250. So
Okay.
I don't think they have a minimum.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept this. I'll amend the motion to accept the fee schedule as presented with a modification to suspend the fee for salon cosmetology inspections for the 2021 fiscal year.
I'll second that.
Okay. Well, that's good to know because my plan is to send a letter to all the salons in town saying
Transition.
this is what we're going to be doing, and then I can say this fee is suspended for this year.
Just in recognition of general hardship for that industry, and it wasn't already on the schedule. So.
Yeah, because they've got a lot of extra things they have to do to even operate in, and they're operating at 50% capacity like everybody else, using every other chair, in their salons and stuff like that. So
roughly how many do we have in town? I'm not even sure.
8. I'm pretty sure there's 8. Somebody
That
else
sounds
just
about right.
called about opening another one because
Yeah.
we just said one that was going to open right when all this happened.
Yeah, down in Somersville, right? The
Yeah.
nail salon. Yeah.
I did the inspection of him, the whole thing. He was all set to go, and then this happened.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, since he passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And his mom is still going to open the salon. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's very much hardship down there.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll let my board know at our next meeting.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Good seeing you.
On to number 7, authorization of scheduled payments.
Right there, Tim.
Oh, thanks.
You gotta
Make a
sign.
motion that we approve the scheduled payments as presented, total being $133,967.17.
I'll second. Any discussion?
As I've reviewed them, I've discussed it with Brian, any questions I had, and he fully answered every question I had.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You need an autograph on that, Mike?
Yeah, both of you gotta sign
Yeah.
it. You
Give
get
a
the
pen
pen.
later.
You don't wanna sign it with pencil.
I'll erase them. I'm just kidding.
I don't think the auditors would like it in pencil too much.
Probably not. Number 9, opportunity to add agenda items. Anything to add?
I have one
I-
suggestion.
I have an
I've
item.
got one thing I would add.
I'll start with Tim.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on what's going on with the long-term recovery committee that we basically gave them the green light at our last meeting just 2 weeks ago, and they've already had 2 meetings.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of want
That's
to add
great.
to that too. That's
Very
what my suggestion.
impressive group, I could say, and everyone's been at, all members have been at both meetings except for
Mhm.
Jeff Lipton, who told me from the beginning that he couldn't get any meetings until after harvest season. So we don't have them available
Depends
until
how bountiful the harvest is.
October, I guess.
Gotta have
But,
fun.
so in other words, they've got a full complement except for Jeff Lipton. He's sort of handicapped as a member. So just to mention that Ann Canoyer, of course, we heard last week, is the chair, and they're looking at what the town has learned so far, what things have gone well, what things can be improved moving forward, what items do not work at all, and what items still need to get done that haven't been addressed. One thing that they've already, this is a fast-moving group, they've already zeroed in on the need for a crisis communications plan. And I think in that regard, there's quite a bit of discussion about various options for communications. Glenn Reynolds mentioned the Everbridge program at the last meeting. He didn't make this past meeting. He's on vacation. So there's discussion about that, how it might work, how it would be applied, what it would cost. Also
What
talk
is
about
the Everbridge program?
It's something that I think the police, fire use.
No, but
Oh, it's
It's-
it's software to try to tie things together.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
reverse 911.
But they don't use it yet. It's just something that's available, that's out
Oh.
there.
Is it like reverse 911? You know how
It's better than that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey, that one wasn't so good.
But they also talk about other things like other options that could complement this as well. A virtual press conference with Selectmen and/or the emergency management director. Talked about the use of the town website, Facebook, Twitter, a mailing that could go out to, particularly for those that are not connected on the internet. They also recommended having these are just recommendations, of course, they haven't made any decisions, recommending having a COVID-19 section on the town website.
Mm-hmm.
And they also mentioned the use of SurveyMonkey, particularly as it would apply to local businesses. And in that regard, there was a fair amount of discussion about the inability to really understand all the local businesses and have communications with them, and it's just something that has not happened. And it's clearly something that's very important, particularly going forward. And the Economic Development Commission, I think, is kind of limited as to what they can do based on not a lot of extra time, but I think that's something that was identified as being particularly valuable for the town.
So are we due to get a report from these folks?
Yeah, they're gonna have what they call sort of a short term. And by the way, I attended both of the first meetings. They're gonna have a short term report that'll probably be available in 60 days. And one of the things that they're very interested in is how they want to get feedback from the town.
Mm-hmm. I still
What does the town think about how COVID response worked?
Mm-hmm.
What did we do right or wrong? And so the discussion here also with a need for a common tool for communication. One source, possibly per key area, rather than just have one common tool for the whole town, but
Yeah.
it might be one source for fire, one source for police,
Yep.
one source for the library. But there also needs to be a network that would connect these as well to make it sort of a communications network, so
Mhm.
everyone is tied in and as to how that might happen.
Okay.
And that there might be a need for a professional at the town level, is possibly a part-time responsibility of some kind of a communications officer.
Well, we have a communications coordinator, but
Okay. Anyway, but this is just
I know what you
this is all
mean.
preliminary.
Is that in Chris's?
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
talking up, yeah.
Yeah.
I use her for a lot of different things.
Yeah,
so-
that'd be a good
Yeah.
extension of what she's doing.
Sort of part-time.
Absolutely.
But an actual position
Yeah.
description would be part-time,
Yeah.
but not just an add-on to or something else that
Right.
everybody else is doing. Let's see. So they came up with the need for a questionnaire that could get to the town's people, right, people in town, citizens,
Mhm.
and as to how to do that, how to reach them. And that it just maybe say have 5 basic questions on the survey. Very easy, and most of them would be yes and no, but there would be room for comment as well.
We could threaten to close the transfer station and they'd all show up.
With the COVID guidelines, they'd be all out in the parking lot too.
So do we have an Office
I-
do we use Office 365 here?
No.
Okay. Because they just updated it and the forms tool that's in there is completely free and it is a piece of cake to use and
Oh,
collect data
really?
on. It's incredible how, SurveyMonkey's good, but it
I
is
know
like,
Chris Boucher's got a lot of data and recreation and a lot of like survey tools that
Yep.
he uses. So
Yeah,
he
so-
might be a good outlet as
But
far as
isn't he
being.
on this committee?
Yes.
I think he is.
So
He is on
I-
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So he
So
might
we're
be
getting
a
an
good
update here,
outlet.
but it's not a complete update
Right.
because
No,
we haven't
it's
got
just
one.
overview.
Yeah, because there hasn't
So,
been,
yeah,
there hasn't
any
been any
action.
decisions made. I
We
mean, there's
just-
just, but one of the things they did focus in on was the possibility of and of course, Dave Marty is also on this, and so
Yes.
he would make available some of these items. And he's talking about a 4-page newsletter.
Mhm.
Just one piece of paper that could be folded into
Yeah.
4 pages, and the newsletter would have enough things in it that would make it of interest, so it would be thrown out immediately at the post office.
Right.
Just a bunch of questions, might happen.
Yeah.
But with the key questions sort of built into it, is a way to get, whatever, 10, 15, 20% response.
Yeah, that'd
Yep.
be great. I would love that.
And I think that Dave's already talked to Bud Noor about it, and Bud
Mhm.
liked it.
I think too, if we could collaborate again with the superintendent, they have a lot of residential
Yes.
email addresses and
Yep.
parents are responding
That
to
was
those.
very
so-
helpful during
Yeah.
this whole mess.
Yep.
Yeah,
with
he
the
actually told me that
communication we had
he's
with the
offering
school.
up his reverse, see if that communication system that he uses now,
Yeah.
see if they could leverage it
Yeah.
also for townwide, so.
Yeah,
That's a
and he talked about,
possibility, yeah.
he's very
been very
upfront.
open.
He said, he talked about how he stole that from the town of Glastonbury when he was working there, the education system there. And say, hey, that's the way to go. We all know that.
Yeah.
We should
Well,
never,
Don't
absolutely.
reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
never
Exactly.
reinvent the wheel. I
Exactly.
agree with
Because
you.
you're not going to do it right.
Well, that
Yeah, but I
sounds
think
good.
everything,
Good things.
everything that we can do from an electronic standpoint with surveys helps with the collection of data. It
Of
isn't so
course.
much that it's the cheaper going out, it's
Right.
the fact that when the results come in, you can slice them 82 different ways
Yeah.
without a lot of.
Yeah, which is why and I haven't had familiarity with using SurveyMonkey, but I understand it is really good
Yep.
at being able to slice and dice, and gives you charts and
Yep.
graphs and all kinds of things. So the good news is that this group is quite active. They're meeting again next Tuesday, and they're on top of it. And the meetings go from an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Good. So, I don't know, so at the last meeting about this whole thing,
Yes.
and the meeting before that, these people weren't officially appointed with a term. So after talking with Ann, we're like, oh God, we had to do that. And then I had to look at party affiliation. So we're good with that.
Okay.
And so you guys just need to appoint these people to this committee with an indefinite term. I would say that, until you enact them, right, I guess.
Until
when
you
you have a crisis.
terminate the committee.
Well, yeah, so, and then me and Ann will work with them with the meeting schedule and minutes and all that stuff, so they can file in here.
So then, do you need a motion
So,
now to
I need
approve the standing committee?
Yes.
Appoint the standing committee
Yes,
to a term of,
indefinite.
Indefinite
Until
term,
term.
or until
Can we do an indefinite
Board of
term or-
Selectmen.
That's what Ann said. She
Okay.
said that's
Um,
fine, because you guys, this is like a subcommittee, so.
and it's advisory?
Advisory, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
So the only person, and I don't know if he's been going to the meetings, is Jeff Golden.
Yes, he's been going to
Okay,
the
he's not a
meetings.
voting member though. That's the only thing, because he's not a town resident, is that correct?
No, he is a town resident.
Oh, he is, I
Yes.
apologize.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. I did not know that. I had Enfield Deputy Chief.
No, it's a tough thing where his job is. It's like my job's in
Oh,
Glastonbury.
all right, I just
but I live
notes
in
I had,
Summers.
and I
Yeah.
apologize.
All
Okay,
right, so the motion will be to
all right.
appoint the standing committee
yeah,
to the official
long-term, short-term recovery.
official members of the advisory committee on long-term recovery.
I would put long-term / short-term, because it's also,
Okay.
It's both.
it's both.
You both
It really
voted on
is, and
that,
that
so.
Yeah,
also
long-term,
leads
short-term
directly
recovery.
into the fact that we
Okay.
need more than one report back from them.
Until
right.
such time that the Board of Selectmen shall either modify the committee members or disband the advisory committee.
Okay. You good with that, Mr. Keenan?
Absolutely.
Second?
And also, of course, you want to make sure you mention Glenn Reynolds as the liaison.
Yes.
Not a committee member, but
He's not a voting member?
no.
Okay. I have to check Jeff
Yeah,
Golden's
he's the,
affiliation then, because I had him as, we were like.
Do we need to
right there.
amend the motion to say that Glenn is a non-voting member?
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion as such
Okay.
then. Glenn is a non-voting member as the committee liaison.
And there are
Okay.
8 members.
Yeah.
Which, can you have the list?
So, yeah, I have Bill Shapiro,
Yeah,
Paul Salvo,
right,
Ann Canoia,
right,
Dave Marty,
right,
Jeff Lipton,
right,
Jeff Golden,
right.
Allison Maynard,
Right.
and Chris Boucher.
You got it.
And we thank them for their willingness to serve in this capacity.
Absolutely.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah, they're definitely pretty excited. There's a lot of energy. And,
That's
That's
great.
awesome.
and,
It's a
the
good
meeting
team.
goes by very quickly, too.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Mike, you had one?
Yeah, I just have an update on the cash and revenue in the tax department. We had originally planned to open the tax department on Monday, coming up July 6th. We did a soft opening this week because we got everything in order ahead of time. So without any great fanfare or advertisement, we just opened the door, put a sign up that said limit one person in the office at a time. So our takeaway from all this first week is that we actually did about $44,000 worth of business this first week over the counter. Prior to that, just to digress for a moment, for the month of June, we sent out our, if you happen to recall, we sent out our tax bills
Some of
early.
us got those, yeah.
Yeah, we made over $3 million on that in
Wow.
fiscal '21 money for that in the month of June. So we're that much ahead of the game already. So Things we learned in our soft opening is we do have a table in front of the counter. That seems to be working very well. People put down their purses or whatever, their car keys on that table. On that table are payment envelopes and all the warnings and all the notices that we have. So you're a taxpayer, you come in, and we said that we were going to have no over-the-counter transactions, but some people come in and say they have cash. And my grandfather told me when they have the cash, take it.
Take the cash. That's good.
Don't ever turn them
Right.
away if they have the cash.
Yep.
And he was a great entrepreneur.
I'm trying to get that to some people at work. They don't get it. No, they don't.
So we do take the cash, but prior to taking the cash, the staff puts on the rubber gloves, takes the cash, counts the cash, and then that's the end of the transaction. They don't work. They say if you would like a receipt, put the cash in that envelope, give us that, and write your email address on the envelope, and they do that, and we send them the receipt. Same thing when you come in with a check. Okay, write your check out, put it in that envelope. You want a receipt, put your email address. Just about everybody who's come in has put their email address on that envelope and has gotten their receipt the same day. So
Fantastic.
so it was good.
They
to
count
kind
it
of-
on the spot, though, I assume, if they got
with the
money.
cash, they
Yeah.
count on the spot.
Yeah.
We learned that because on one of the cash payments we were $10 short, and so we said, "Oh no, we cannot go on this way." So
Yeah.
we have a little box. I mean, it's a black box, but it's a place for them to put the envelope. We actually secured it. It's like almost like taped down in a way, but it can't hold that many. It can't hold too many payments as is. But it's a place to write your check out, put in the envelope, and just put it in there. And then
I saw somebody use it today.
we frequently. Well, we had I went in there and there was like 4 or 5 payments in there. I think that's about as much as you can. And then they go around and they take it out. And of course, that's all cleaned and everything and sanitized. So.
They're doing a good job.
And so, honestly, I haven't had any complaints. Everybody is COVID compliant. All of our people that have come in are wearing their masks.
Great.
So, just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. So, the grand opening and probably the volume will increase starting next week. We'll
Yeah.
probably have people standing in line 6 feet or whatever.
But
I
they're
think-
still encouraged to use the drop box outside.
Right, we have an
and
outside
everything
drop
else.
box, and
They're
then for
still
those who
encouraging that.
really want to come in, some people have their stuff in an envelope already, and we just say,
Yeah.
So the grand opening is going to be the week of July 6th.
yeah,
Next
this
week.
coming Monday.
Monday,
This
this
coming
coming
Monday,
Great.
which was always our advertised date, but it doesn't hurt to have again, my grandfather, become a soft opening entrepreneur, so
Very nice.
anyway, so it's working out pretty well.
Great.
I'll just give you guys one update as well. At about 5:38 p.m. today, we finally got all of our documentation submitted for the first FEMA submission
Oh, nice.
for reimbursement. The total request submitted was for $60,250. So the 75% portion from FEMA would equate to $45,188.
I'm sorry, and what was the last one you said?
$45,188 is the 75% FEMA reimbursement. Once I do get approval confirmation from FEMA, however long that should take, hopefully not long, then I will turn around and submit to CRF for the remaining $15,062. So that's fire department labor, overtime, additional staffing requirements for 3 ambulances to run, and then all materials and supplies that were used in town.
So those expenses, when we look at town finances, those expenses have hit those departments.
Yes.
Right? When we get the reimbursement, does the reimbursement go back to offset those, or does that just go into the general fund?
It goes back into the general fund.
So if fire is over by $30,000,
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It looks
But
like it's over.
because of
Yeah.
those COVID expenses.
Yep.
But in reality, they're under by or whatever.
Correct.
Or so.
Correct. So
Yeah.
should that question come up from the public when we're doing the budget session for next year, will you be able to say this
Yes,
is what
it'll
we-
all be handled by the auditors. We actually discussed it with them. Mike and I had a meeting on Monday with them talking about it and how we have to handle it as far as, with the Board of Finance and steps that they have to take. And so it will all ultimately get taken care of. And we'll show a receivable on the books. We'll show the revenue in fiscal 20 that we requested the monies, and then when the actual monies come in, the receivable will go away.
Great. Yeah, but it'll be nice to show the community that even though it was spent, we tracked it, we
Yep.
submitted it for reimbursement,
Mhm.
we got the reimbursement, went into the general fund, so that's going to help offset any increase that we have.
Yep.
Great, thanks. Good.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting on a couple of items from the Board of Education to finish submitting theirs as well. Theirs is nowhere near as much. Theirs is only about $9,000 worth of materials.
They'll make up for it.
Because they didn't have a
Yes.
ton of labor costs. They just had some additional custodial duties. So theirs isn't much, and I'm just waiting on a couple items for them. Probably submitted on Monday or Tuesday next week.
Great. Anything else?
No.
Okay, I'll call for an adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you
Thank
in a
you.
couple of
Thank you.
weeks.
Cool.
So, date of the next meeting is the 16th?
16th.
Yep.
Yes.